everyone, and welcome to the 8th Melbourne AWS User Group podcast. My name is Arjen, and today we'll be discussing all the exciting and less exciting announcements from October 2020. And to do so, I'm as usual joined by my and everyone's friends, Jean-Manuel Becker and Guy Morton.
Hello everyone, very happy to be here again.
Hi everyone.
Thank you for joining. For those of you who follow this podcast and somehow haven't heard about it yet, the reInvent registration is open. So we briefly discussed this when it was announced. This year, reInvent is a 3-week extravaganza with 5 keynotes spread out over those 3 weeks. And best of all, of course, it's completely free. You can enjoy it from the comfort of your home.
Yes, the only cost is the investment of your time if you actually want to go on and enjoy all of it over the course of 3 weeks, or if your employer will allow you to do so without sacking you. So that might cost you money.
You can do that at night. You can do it live at 2 a.m. if you want.
That's very true. Yeah, so don't sleep.
But I will watch the rebroadcast, like they say.
Yeah, that's the other nice thing. Everything will be available in 3 different time zones. So you should always be able to find some time zone that suits you.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not sure how it will work with the spoilers for things like the keynotes. Pretty sure that we will have heard about all the announcements before we start watching the rebroadcast.
Yeah, it will be on Twitter somewhere, yes.
So what's your prediction? Have we got any predictions about what's going to be the big announcement now? So obviously the really important announcement is, what are they going to do to top Deep Composer? What AI kind of a machine learning device are they going to invent this year that's going to make everyone go, oh my God, that's incredible.
I want one, yeah.
Yeah. So...
Well... It should be obvious. I think it's been spoiled by Ring's announcement of their flying indoor drone camera.
Right. Yeah.
I'm hoping for a deep drone.
A deep drone. Nice. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, I like that. What about a pet? Like people had chia pets, right? You grow the seeds on them. Instead of that, just have a pet that's, learns, I don't know, I don't know how it would work, but just a deep pet.
To comfort you during isolation, is it? To have some friend.
A deep companion, yeah.
That sounds wrong.
It does sound a bit wrong, doesn't it?
So the other thing before we get started is a bit of follow-up. Last month, we were wondering how Lex would deal Guy's fair shake
of the sauce bottle. Yeah.
Friend of the show and frequent listener Chris actually took a stab at trying to figure out what came out of that, and it wasn't the most accurate I've ever heard.
No, it was funny. So he just ran the whole podcast through Lex, right, and dumped it all out. Yep. And it gave us about half an hour of titters, didn't it? Just little amusements. Yeah. But did you make a record of your favourites?
Well, I kind of like actually many of the fair shake of the sauce bottle ones, like a fair shake of the sauce spot. Yeah, fair shake of the sauce spot. That's right. That was a beautiful one. Australia need to enable the clown front worldwide. So the clown front's coming. Thought it was already here, actually. So very good news for our Friends Club front in New Zealand. That was another one.
That's probably my French accent. It should have changed Lex to French.
Yeah. So if you look at Lambda itself, you have a side to be able to visualize your stepchildren to know where you are. That was another translation. Don't know what it was thinking there. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure it will improve over time.
All right. Next one is the finally in Sydney Amazon EC2 G4DN bare metal with NVIDIA T4 Tensor and 95 5 vCPUs, that's 48 cores, and then 100 gig networking throughput and 1.8 terabyte local NVMe. Pretty nice box to play with.
Expensive, but nice, I'm sure.
Yeah, did you check the price?
No, I didn't. No.
It's a $10.17 an hour.
Right.
US.
Yep.
That's around 10,000 Australian a month
Yeah.
when you buy on demand.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good. So I had a look. I wanted to build one, but I had a look at the Spot instance, and the Spot is not there. I mean, the Spot is there, but at the same price, so they don't do Spot on it.
Yeah.
To compare the i3 Metal, where you have 70% reduce on the Spot. So yeah, you can't really use that right now, unless you have a deep pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't the Spot just a side effect of it being completely new, so nobody is running it yet?
Yeah.
You need to have people using them, and then there'll be some Spot hours, presumably.
Yeah. So you can use that for ECS, for EKS. They support the DN instance and the DN bare metal instance. So yeah, they are in Sydney. You can click on it. You can build an instance with it and build your own hypervisor if you want to with this kind of magic GPU and CPUs. Nice.
Yep. Cool. Sitewise, so now that's in Sydney. So Sitewise is an IoT service to help you collect data basically from devices. The use case is if you've got a factory with full of, IoT devices collecting data about your machinery or something of that sort, it's designed to sort of help you do that sort of collection, storage, monitoring, visualization. It's a solution for that. So, and that's now available in Sydney and Singapore.
Yep. And that means it took less than 2 years to arrive in Sydney because it was announced at reInvent 2018.
Well, that's good, right? Less than 2 years.
Yeah.
Bargain.
And then we have the RDS snapshot export to S3, also now available. So this is where you can take snapshots of your RDS instance in Parquet format, send it to your S3 bucket, and then have all your other services play around with the data, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's the name snapshot export makes people think probably it's just normal database snapshots, but it isn't.
So yeah, apparently it's 2 times faster to export and 6 times less storage on S3 than the text format, CSV or other things. So you can export RDS Postgres, MariaDB, and MySQL, and Aurora Postgres as well, and MySQL. And I had a quick look, and you can basically go to the snapshot section in the console, click Action, and export to S3. You pick the S3, pick the role, and it's done for you. A bit of a cost though. It's cheap, 400 gig. It's 1.3 cents per gig, but it takes in consideration the size of the snapshot, so not the size of the data exported. So if your database is 1 terabyte, you will export every time 1 terabyte. And if you want to re-export it, even if you select a small database, it will export the 1 terabyte. So for 100 gig, it's around $1.13. So it's not a big deal, but every time you need to pay for the full snapshot size of your RDS instance to export.
So even though the storage format's actually quite efficient, you're still paying for the size of the RDS storage.
The full snapshot. Yes.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Correct.
Okay.
Because he look at the snapshot. But the good part is you don't have any impact on your database. You don't have any performance issues. It's just looking at the snapshot. Yeah, you read the snapshot, export it. But an incremental snapshot usually is much smaller, right? The first is 100 gig, and then the rest are probably the 5 gig or the 10 gig of data change. The export feature will make you pay for the whole lot every time.
And that's because with that format, there's no way of sort of doing an incremental, because it's not a snapshot like a normal EBS snapshot or whatever that we think you're used to talking about snapshots as being.
But if you had a look, if you had to do it yourself with an ETL system running your database, you will have a load on it. If you want to run EC2 instance, restore it, re-export it, it's a really complicated system to do it yourself.
Yep.
To have a Parquet format to feed your data lake. So I think it's a very good product.
Yep. Definitely fills a niche. I'm sure there's a lot of customers who would be grateful for that. Yeah.
And lastly, we sort of skipped over it, but you can now use the Amazon Lexbots with Australian English in your Amazon Connect setup. As we just discussed, though, I don't know exactly how useful that will be. to get accurate recordings of what people are saying.
Yeah, it might be better in that context than it was trying to absorb us. Because we're probably, I don't know, maybe, we're just a bit more idiosyncratic than a normal conversation might be. Although I don't know. Anyway.
Let's have a look at the serverless announcements. So we got two pretty big ones that are only in preview at the moment. The first one is Lambda extensions, which seems to be quite a cool, interesting feature. It basically allows you to run a second Lambda function in the time that your other one starts up or shuts down, and it keeps running, doing the thing. It just starts and ends earlier than the other one, so that you can do extra logging or other things you might want to do.
Yeah.
I'm sure, Guy, that you have your opinions on how this can also completely be abused and...
Well, I don't have. I haven't really thought of any doomsday scenarios, but I will just note that people who know more about this than I do have basically said don't use it. So there's a couple of use cases for it, as you mentioned, something that you want to have happen before your Lambda function starts up, like pulling secrets from Secrets Manager and putting them in environment variables, log shipping that happens at the end of the life cycle of your Lambda. Those are the kind of use cases that this is kind of was initially, I think, designed to address, and that's why all the integrations that are kind of there right now are all they're all Datadogs and those sorts of things. They're all things that are kind of providing metrics and such about your function, or logging, those sorts of things, or security type stuff. So it is possible for your Lambda and your extension to kind of communicate with one another via disk or local ports, so they can the two threads can kind of converse or share data. But that is probably where things could get ugly as well. So use at your own risk. I think it's probably it may be great. Like, you may have an awesome use case for it, and I'm sure someone will find awesome things to do with it as well. But it could be misused as well.
Yeah, and aside from all the misuse and stuff, it's important to note that it will use the same resources as your main Lambda function. So if you've got a extension that uses a similar amount of memory as your regular Lambda function, you'll have to bump up how much you give your Lambda function.
Yeah, your compute and your networking and your memory allocation. And for the pricing, it will add probably maybe 100 milliseconds at the beginning and 100 milliseconds at the end. So you will pay a bit more to run this extension inside your Lambda, because the pricing will appear as one.
Yeah, and depending on how much work it's doing at those different times, of course, it could be more than that.
Yeah. So it's in preview. I don't know if it is in Sydney or not.
Yes, it is. It is. It's in preview in Sydney. Yep.
But one of the extension, and that's a link with the next preview, is a CloudWatch Lambda Insight, which is available in your Lambda extension. So Lambda Insight will help as well to have more information about your Lambda, and you have a lot of languages supported: .NET Core 3.1, Amazon Linux, Corrado 11 and 8, and Node.js 12 and 10, Python 3.8 and 3.7, and Ruby 2.7 and 2.5, and it is in Sydney as well.
Yeah, and that's implemented as a Lambda extension.
Yes. Another news for Lambda, you can use Lambda APIs through AWS Private Link. So we know already that you can have Lambda running inside your VPC, but now you can call your Lambda and your Lambda API from inside the VPC. So everything basically goes to lambda.apsarsis2.amazon.aws.com for the APSARS region. Will go and stay inside your VPC. So even from on-prem now, when you call a Lambda through the HTTP API, all the Lambda information, variable, and all of that will be kept into your direct connect into your private VPC. So a good security improvement to run Lambda in Private Link.
Yep, it's everywhere now.
Yeah, and another $30 a month to run.
Yeah. Yep, and that's built on data transfer, I think, isn't it? Private Link, it's largely.
It's 10 cents per interface it's 1 cent per interface per hour.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very quickly expensive, because it's an ENI living into your account, and you have a DNS, basically Route 53 private zone will redirect you to that endpoint. So it's a DNS trick. It's a split the NS trick.
Yeah. So so you're paying per endpoint per hour plus data. It's a cent per gig. Yep.
Yeah. But you can, apply policy on it. You can put security groups. You can do a lot of good things to.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's neat for sure. It's a neat solution for a bunch of different use cases for sure. Just got to be aware of how much data you're gonna pump down it and etc. Yep. Check the pricing page.
We got Event Bridge dead letter queue. I like that. Event Bridge, I think, is going to be more and more prevalent. Use the same as CloudWatch Events API, but you can do much more things in it. You can become your kind of serverless event hub for your whole enterprise across account and across your environment. So that's pretty cool. And so they added an SQS queue now for the letter queue with retrial, and so you can fine grain the number of retry you have, the number of events. So it's a good addition, I think, to have that. And the letter queue has obviously CloudWatch alarms where you can feed yourself and go back to Event Bridge to alert you that there is a problem with your queue. So interesting.
Yeah, neat. I think we saw Event Bridge announcements last month too on a similar. It's obviously something that they're working, they're improving on all the time. I think it was JSON schemas for Event Bridge.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely, as you say, a core piece of the serverless infrastructure now. That's really grown, as you say, from CloudWatch Events. It's really grown into a quite a sophisticated product in its own right, from being sort of just a utility thing that you could do something with to something that's really quite core to how to build on AWS now.
And in multi-account strategy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Step function now support Amazon Athena service integration, so you can monitor basically what's happened with your Athena queries, like start query, stop query, get query execution. So you can chain a bit more of ETL, or verify if your ETL worked and if your Athena data is correct at the end, and orchestrate basically your data ingestion. So interesting.
Step functions keeps getting new integrations too. It's a great. I'm using that at the moment actually to solve a bunch of problems. It's really, again, a really key piece of kit.
Yeah, and more and more. I mean, I was listening to a podcast as well. Someone in the US was saying that even now, if you have one Lambda, maybe it's a good idea to just put a step function on top, because you don't know how that Lambda is going to evolve. If you need to do some more logic or more error handling, stick them into step function instead of trying to do the error handling inside Lambda. So interesting.
Yeah. Well, and if you're a visual learner, it's awesome. Because you've got the nice little diagram with the little bubbles that light up too,
and the green light or not.
That's right. Everything's green. Awesome. That means it's good. But I think the interesting thing about things like step functions is how the more you sort of break down the problems that we're solving, the simpler it becomes to kind of put those solutions together. That's actually an awesome sort of thing, I think. It does make it easier, because the world is so complex, right? And a lot of the problems we're working with are so complex. It's really good to have these kinds of expressive frameworks that kind of help you organize your thoughts and visualize along the way how things are supposed to go. Like it's if you put a new developer in front of a step function to say, well, this is what it does.
Yeah.
And you can look at it and go, oh, okay, so I understand the logic of that, right? Whereas if you sat them down in front of a A4 page of code that did the same thing, they'd probably need a
bit more time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's all good. Containers. Well, it must be time for you to get excited, Arjen.
Yeah, it's not a super exciting one, to be honest.
Yeah.
EKS now supports Kubernetes version 1.8, which means it is actually very close now to the latest version, which is 1.19. And obviously, because extra security things get added and they wait for a certain stable release before they introduce it, this is about as close as we'll ever get.
But 118 means that 114 now is not going to be supported, because I remind you, AWS just supports 3 versions. And so the fourth version is going to be dropped, and that's going to be dropped on the 8th of December 2020. So you need to upgrade, otherwise AWS will upgrade for you to 1.15. So be proactive, do upgrade, get the latest version. There's new features attached to it.
Cool.
The other EKS news that's interesting, assuming nobody really cares about it being available in a local zone.
In LA, no, not yet.
Is that you can now set the service IP address range, which is basically only, again, interesting for very limited use cases, mostly to do with having multiple EKS clusters running or multiple Kubernetes clusters running, and they need to communicate in some way.
So I had a look at the requirement. So you need to be a 10/8 or 172.16/12 or 192.168/16. And it cannot overlap with your CRDR range from your own VPC. So it's interesting how you need to kind of pre-allocate now IP ranges as well for your EKS clusters in advance to plan for the VPC and the routing you want, if you want communication with on-prem and stuff like that. So
yeah, but only if you want to use kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's optional, but and that you can do it only at creation time. You can't do it retroactively. Yeah, and you need 118.
All the new features are always only available in the latest. For ECS, interesting. It's again CDK update. Amazon ECS extensions are now available in the CDK as a developer preview. So this will make it easier to build your ECS stuff in using CDK. Again, it's still in preview, so just play around with it, and we'll probably report back once it's actually available in GA.
Yeah, apparently the extension are very easy to use in a couple of lines of code, or even one line of code. You can add a load balancer, you can add CloudWatch logs, just a couple of lines of code, and at the end you have 1,000 lines of code in CloudFormation deployed. So very easy for a developer to build stuff quickly with Amazon ECS extensions.
And the CDK in general does all that stuff. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Beanstalk, that's your zone, guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super pumped about this is a relatively smallish announcement. I would have thought support for Amazon Linux 2 based Docker multi-container application support. So the multi-container applications has been around for a while. So really, they just introduced Amazon Linux 2 to their Docker platform. Okay. So it's a pretty minor announcement, I would have thought. Yeah, but good on them. It's not quite a Nano, but it's not all that exciting either.
The AWS load balancer controller might be a bit interesting though.
Mm-hmm.
This is an extension of and renaming of the ALB ingress controller that I think we may have discussed a couple months ago.
Yeah.
The biggest difference now is it also supports NLB, and you can point it at an IP address, so you can use it with Fargate, for example, instead of only containers running on an instance, which is nice.
Yeah, and you need EKS Kubernetes 118 as well to have this feature. Yes. There is the improvement with AppMesh as well, who support cross-account sharing with ICM Private Security Certificate Authority. So a couple of months ago, we had ICM Private Certificate be able to be shared through RAM in August. So now AppMesh can consume that PCA across account and then enable TLS between connected devices without you changing your application. So very interesting to be able to leverage AppMesh to do that with your private CA.
Shall we have a look at the EC2 and VPC section though?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I think the biggest announcement here is probably the Nitro enclaves.
Yep.
These were first announced again at reInvent last year, and what they basically do is allow you to take your EC2 instance and then you can split part of that off into a secure section. You do that by using an enclave image, which can just be spun out from a Docker image, so you can easily convert that, and then you allocate resources to it, say 2 CPUs and 4 gigabytes of RAM, and then that can only be used by that secure section. Obviously, this is aimed completely at secure workloads or other things that need to be secure. And the other interesting thing that comes with it is the example use case that AWS built for it, which is a long requested feature, I suspect, of being able to use your ACM certificates directly on an EC2 instance.
Yeah, you just have to do it inside the enclave to make it happen. So it's one of those announcements that everyone saw the headline and thought, oh, ACM certificates on EC2, whoop whoop, yay. And then they read the rest of it and went, oh, actually that sounds a bit hard.
Yes. So it's available for M5, C5, R5, T3, i3, A1. So it's not really a container. It doesn't have any persistent storage. You can't have operator access into that enclave. It's a very lightweight Linux operating system running and has an independent kernel and his own encryption keys to be able to verify the attestation, cryptometric attestation to prove that this is the right enclave. And then so you have a secure channel for the two kind of application to talk to each other with through vSoc. So yeah, have a look at the blog. There is a couple of examples there. And the example given for ACM is to run Nginx basically in your box without having to give the certificate to that Nginx or storing the certificate into that box. The certificate reside inside the enclave and then get pulled every time the Nginx need to be able to be refreshed or have other certificates. So that way the certificate is secure. Nobody can, even the root account can't get it. So interesting.
Yeah, definitely an interesting thing. And the other thing, because we haven't brought them up yet today, one instance type that is not supported for this is all the Graviton instances. It is for all the Nitro ones, but only the Intel-based ones. So that will either come, or they assume that the ARM instances are already secure in a different way, but then you should probably be able to run the same things anyway. So hopefully they'll be rolling that out. So it'll be support for HTTP2 and gRPC. It's interesting in a way. So HTTP2 is just standard, faster HTTP connections with some extra bits included. gRPC, on the other hand, is more of a protocol or way of communicating between microservices. So the nice thing with that is the ALB support for it would basically mean that you can use the ALB as a way to direct the communication between your microservices. So it could serve as an example as a completely alternative to something like AppMesh.
Okay, yeah.
Because instead of having a mesh that talks directly to the other microservices, you can make it go through the ALB and have that directed, so you don't have to deal with the mesh.
So you will go in and out of the cluster, the EKS cluster or something, through every time to the ILB, instead of staying through the Envoy proxy between services.
Yeah, so it makes it a little bit slower, but for certain cases it might, it also lowers the complexity because it's a lot easier to point things to one place instead of managing
the full mesh. Yeah, and you can use the ILB features like stickiness, load balancing algorithm, and TLS termination as well. So that's the advantage of using that product.
Yeah.
Compute optimizer, enhanced EC2 instance type recommendation with EBS metrics. So that's probably what something was missing into the compute optimizer, because it was just looking at compute and memory. Now you can look at what's happening in your EBS, and if your IOPS or if your EBS bandwidth is a bottleneck into your instance, and recommend the right sizing instance to go to a high bandwidth EBS, for example, optimized, or to increase your IOPS. So make your SSD GP2 a bit bigger to have more IOPS on it. So good addition to the recommendation.
Yep.
Site-to-site VPN supports health notifications. That's also quite nice. It was something that was kind of missing often that you could set up your VPNs, but then you had to build your own monitoring around it to make sure that it was actually up and running all the time. So it's good to see there's some automated notifications. It just goes to the personal health dashboard, but at least it shows you, hey, I'm only on a single tunnel at the moment.
Yeah. The Global Accelerator launched port overrides. So Global Accelerator, it's a unicast IP across the world who can forward that traffic to different endpoints and load balancers and stuff. But in the past, you have to have the port matching. So if you were listening on 443, you had to listen on 443 on the other side. Now you can do a port override. So you can make sure that you don't have the port to match. So you can listen on 443 and then send to 8443 or 443 for them port. A couple of rules are you can't have port range to overlap. You can't use duplicated endpoint ports. And the health check, which is interesting, still use the original port. So if you listen on 443, the health check will listen to 443 to make sure that your traffic is ready to be received by your endpoint. And the security group must allow the new port access, obviously, as well. So a bit of improvement, like using almost the Global Accelerator like a load balancer a little bit with a port override forwarding.
Let's move on to DevOps now.
Yep.
So a couple of CloudFormation things. First, we have increased limits on a bunch of quotas, which is good. You can now make ridiculously sized CloudFormation templates.
Do you think it's a side effect of the CDK? Because CDK create huge templates, right? And then is it a side effect that they had to upgrade the CloudFormation kind of service to be able to fit the generation of code? So yeah, you can have massive S3 object up to 1 meg for your CloudFormation template, which is massive, and manage up to 500 resources.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to put that much into a single template.
But if you did with the CDK, you don't see it.
I think you'd still notice. You'd have to work reasonably hard to make a 1 meg CloudFormation template out of CDK as well, I think.
But you have now 200 parameters. That's a lot of parameters. And before you had 60 and 200 mapping as well, and then 200 output.
Look, I think it's good. I mean, as Arjen says, I mean, you don't want to make anything that big. It makes if you're really defining that many resources in a CloudFormation template, there probably is an opportunity to step back and break it up a bit. But it's easy to say that, but I'm sure that there's somebody out there who's got a genuine use case where it actually doesn't make any sense to break it up, and they really need those sorts of resource limits. So look, it's all more capability. It's like all the things they do with Lambda, right? They make it be able to do a lot more than perhaps it did at the outset, and sure, some people will abuse it and do stupid things because they can, but I guess that's all part of the fun. And then they have to hire us to come and help them fix it, right? So that's good. It's all good. And
maybe we can just use the other new announcement, CloudFormation Guard, which I think we've mentioned when it came out in preview. It's now GA. That is basically a tool you can run to see if your templates are compliant to the rules you define.
Yeah, so that's things like encryption enabled on buckets and things like that.
Yeah, it would be nice if you could also say you can't have templates with more than this many resources.
Well, you probably do that in code build, right? So if you put that in your pipeline with code build, you can do all the verification for you and reject your build, right? If the template is too big.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Just truncate it. That's the punishment.
What do we have?
Well, there's one that we need to mention because otherwise we'll have an angry listener. So for Chris Corretto, we've got an announcement about the quarterly updates. So we'll just throw these out there.
Get your Java compatible runtime here.
Yep, very minor versions. I didn't even look what is new, but obviously it must be awesome because it's Corretto.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are some other nice announcements here which would probably be wrong to skip over completely. Synthetics has gotten an update to enable you to record user flow scripts for canaries.
Oh yes, I like that. Yeah.
So that's neat. That's so you can basically click around on your app and record a user flow that you want the canary to test for. So it'll fail if click this button, click that button. All of a sudden, the thing that's supposed to appear didn't appear. Grafana, the X-ray data source plugin, that's neat. So you can pull your X-ray data into Grafana with that.
To be able to visualize it better, yeah, okay.
Yep, what else have we got? Porting assistant for .NET's now open source. So, if you've got .NET code and you want to port it to .NET Core, the porting assistant's open source now. So get amongst it, get off those Microsoft licensing fees, and join the rest of us. The water's fine. Come to the Linux party.
And how did you see as well the customization for Session Manager shell?
Oh yeah,
environment?
Yes.
That was always an annoying feature of me. You had to type bash and launch everything down. So you can automate that now to make sure that the experience of the user when they logging through Session Manager is like what they were logging before.
Yep.
And then end of support migration program as well for Windows servers for people who know migrating 2003, 2008, and 2008 or to application to a more modern type of app. It's a tool now. It's just an MSI. You can download. It's open source, and you can analyze your app, package it, and then try to run it onto a bigger, more secure machine. You still need .NET 4 minimum, so it's from 2003 Service Pack 232 bits, 2 gig memory, and 10 gig of space on your disk to be able to analyze the app. Never tried it, but I think it's worth it now to have a look at that application for people who want to migrate the old stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Image Builder also got a new feature to be able to share AMIs across multiple accounts in different regions. So you used to have to manually copy AMIs across multiple accounts in different regions, and now you can do that out of the box.
Yep. Through the console or the CLI. Which
Yep.
You want to go to security?
Yeah, let's look at security.
AWS config 15 new sample conformance pack templates that you can apply. So there is a plethora of it now. So you have cybersecurity, you have well architected, you have NIST 800, NIST 800-171, FedRAMP, HIPAA. Use it. It's cool. I create AWS config rules. They all manage, and you don't have to use an external product. You can use native tools to be able to prove that your account has been compliant along the way.
Yep, very cool. AppSync has got support for WAF now, so you can protect your GraphQL APIs with WAF, the same as you can do it for API Gateway APIs.
Yeah, that was missing. Yeah, people had to do CloudFront and all the top of things before. Now it's all integrated, so very nice. You can protect against SQL injection and cross-scripting out of the box.
Yep, and all the other stuff that WAF can do. Yep.
Yeah, an improvement with AWS Shield as well. That feature was provided only to AWS Shield Advanced. Now it's available to everyone, so it provides you a global and per account event summaries of the activity on your account. For infrastructure layer attack, layer 3 and layer 4, you still need AWS Shield Advanced if you want layer 7. And I'll remind you the product is a paid product, where AWS Shield is a free product. So it gives you that global view across your account where the DDoS attack could happen to you.
Yeah, you also need Shield Advanced still for a more granular view or to get the details of things.
Yeah. S3 object ownership.
Yeah, that's a pretty big one.
Yeah, that was such a pain.
So S3 objects, if they're written to your to a bucket that you own, but they're written by a different account, that account could own the object. So this lets you set a feature that you can basically automatically assume the ownership of any objects that are put in a bucket that's in your account. So that will solve some gnarly problems for people that can otherwise arise.
Yeah, we had to put bucket policy in the past to enforce that automatically and reject if it was not giving the ownership. But now it can be done by default.
Yeah.
Elasticsearch using SAML. That's a big one, I think. Elasticsearch always has been kind of vulnerable type of product. First running in public with no authentication, and then running in private VPCs now, and now you can have SAML, so you can have all the plethora of identity provider to give you access to Elasticsearch and Kibana with Okta, Ping, OneLogin, Active Directory, ADFS, and a lot to secure your Elasticsearch service.
Yeah. Did you notice one SSO service that is not mentioned on there?
But it support OneLogin and Ping.
It supports services that you can now hook into your AWS SSO, but apparently it doesn't look like it completely supports it out of the box.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. I suspect you can still set it up, but they didn't mention it for some reason.
Yep. Interesting. Data storage and processing.
So obviously the big news here is that after talking about it for half a year, RDS now has the Graviton 2 instances support officially out.
Yep, in Sydney.
Yep, including in Sydney. If you run a modern version of MySQL, Postgres, or MariaDB, please investigate switching, because it can save you a lot of money and basically comes with no downsides because it's a managed service.
And they say up to 52% better price performance. So, for free. Why wouldn't you want that? Just go and get it. Get some.
And Amazon Aurora is coming soon. That was the same sentence they were using 6 months ago when they announced the preview. So it's coming soon.
You're so cynical, JM. I'm sure it's really coming soon now. Maybe reinvent.
Yeah. That would be a good one.
In the same vein, Elasticache also now supports the Graviton 2 based instances. Like RDS, it's only the M6G and R6G because that makes the most sense because they're the memory focused ones.
Now that's not available in Sydney yet, but it's coming, I'm sure. Coming soon.
Yeah, and again, same thing as with RDS. No downsides for you, so investigate, try it out, and possibly wait out until your reserved instances are no longer keeping you locked into the Intel hardware.
Awesome. We love Graviton.
And a very interesting one that highlighted something I wasn't really aware of is Amazon Aurora enables dynamic resizing for database storage space.
Yeah, and that's the first time we see that, right?
Yeah, so basically Amazon Aurora would always scale up with your usage, but if you deleted something, it didn't free up that space. So your scaling was one directional and
expensive.
Yeah, it just kept costing you more money. So now the big change here is it will also scale down.
Yeah. So not only you can go to 128 terabyte, that was the announcement last month, I think.
Not terabytes,
Yep.
tebibytes.
Tebibytes. But now it will reduce along the way if you don't use it. That's rare in cloud, right? To be able to go up and down storage. Usually it's one way. Very good.
Yep. Elasticity.
Yep. So maybe they no longer need to be able to scale up to 128 anymore.
I'm sure somebody will.
And that will be available in all Aurora region by the end of November.
Nice. Cool.
A couple of announcements on Lake Formation to support Active Directory and SAML provider for Amazon Athena. So Lake Formation is really a product getting pushed by AWS. There is more and more integration. So there is a couple of features this month. About the SAML integration, about being able to do cross-account database sharing as well, to share your information across account and not having this silo kind of lake. And there was the EMR integration as well, so with Lake Formation, which is GA, and again, having the SAML integration, so you can secure your data across Redshift, S3, and EMR, all with Lake Formation as well. So, interesting product.
And EMR's also gotten Graviton 2 instances. So now provides up to 35% lower cost and up to 15% improved performance for Spark workloads with Graviton 2.
Yep. And again, that's a managed services. You don't care about where you run on. So use Graviton instead of Intel. What you can do as well, and I remind people, EMR is a single AZ product. You need to run in the same subnet into your one AZ. So now AWS, for people who run EMR as a multi-node master cluster, allow you to have a spread placement group, as they said. So that's enforce the fact that the 2 different node or 3 different node going to be different racks and different hypervisors to reduce the chance of failure or multiple failure of your master node. So you need version 5.23 for that. But I think that's a very good addition to try to make EMR a bit more resilient. It's still a single AZ product. A lot of people forget that.
Cool. Thanks for the reminder.
Well, you can build stuff. I mean, we build that for client as well with, step function and Lambda function who will take a snapshot and rebuild your cluster into another AZ and everything, but you will have a downtime. So, EMR is a fantastic product, but it is a single AZ right now.
Let's have a look at the AI and ML stuff.
Yep.
Quite a bit of SageMaker.
Yeah, a lot of SageMaker.
Yeah, but it's all the different SageMaker products. Because, as we all know, SageMaker is just a word they put in front of half the AI and ML services. A bunch of improvements. So SageMaker Autopilot creates models faster and with higher accuracy. So cost savings, basically, and improvements there in how well it works.
So Autopilot's the sort of the product that will kind of take a stab at solving your problems without you having to kind of really understand what it's doing, right? So it's kind of coming up with a model that will solve your problems without you having to really it'll analyze your data and sort of figure it out for you. Is that's
yeah? Well, it put it through many models it's got already, and then try to rank them and choose the best one and change the parameters for you, and it will tell you, oh, that's the best model for you. Use this one. So yeah.
Cool. So it's basically better at doing that now. It's going to do it faster and twice as accurately. Awesome. That's good to know.
Up to. Yeah,
okay. Maybe 101% higher accuracy most of the time, but hey, that's okay. In theory.
Amazon SageMaker Studio, you can run that now inside your VPC. And obviously you can control now the ingress and egress internet through your VPC if you have a firewall or other things like that. So that's make the product much more secure for people who want to use SageMaker Studio notebooks. And another announcement as well, you can use your own custom images of the SageMaker Studio notebooks with your own ML frameworks on it, TensorFlow, MXNet or PyTorch, pre-configured for your users.
Cool.
Also, a couple of improvements to Kendra for those who run Confluent Server themselves.
Oh, that's neat.
You can now hook that up.
Yeah, good.
But possibly more interesting is the custom data sources. So you can now put whatever you want yourself in there.
Yeah.
And this is especially interesting if we go for spoilers based on that we were a bit later with recording this, that Kendra probably shows up in next month's final release.
Yeah.
So with Kendra, you can integrate with S3, RDS, SharePoint, OneDrive, ServiceNow, and now Confluence. And I can tell there's a lot of people who always complain about Confluence that you can't find anything on it. So maybe Kendra, we're going to be able to help with that with a better search feature. And then you can have your custom as well data source. So yeah, very cool. Coming to Sydney soon.
Does anyone know what the expensive? Is it sort of expensive to have Kendra? Do you know? How's it? Don't know how it works. Okay.
It is not cheap, but on the other hand, if it works as advertised, you easily make that money back.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It did. I mean, I was interested in it when they announced it. What, last year sometime? Was it?
Yeah, it came. It was announced at reInvent.
Yeah. I think it's it's the kind of thing, I guess, that you probably need to have some sort of idea about. You know what? Like, you need to kind of try it, really, in a way, don't you, before you know whether it's gonna help you. There is a free tier, so you can get started with it for free for up to 750 hours for the first 30 days. So it's one of those sort of first month free type things.
For the developer edition, yes, and then it's $2.50 an hour, but the enterprise edition is $7 an hour.
$7 an hour, yeah.
And if you have more than 500,000 docs, if you go to 1 million document to organize, then it's becoming $11 or $10.50 an hour, and etc. So every 500,000 document to analyze is $3.50 per hour. So can become very, very expensive, but at the same time, it's a state of the art searching engine on your data.
Yeah, so it might be quite a few grand a month if you get carried away.
Yeah.
Yep. Recognition. There's a nice announcement there around now detects PPE, personal protective equipment, such as face covers, head covers, and hand covers on persons in images.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise that they probably put that feature in. They've been busily beavering away on making that feature available, because I guess there's two cases for that, isn't there? One, put your damn mask on. And also just checking that people have got masks. So
and not a chin guard, but more a mask.
That's right. Or one of those people who has their nose hanging out. Yes.
It's called a chin guard.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where you sort of obviously recognition's amazing at facial recognition in general is amazing at how accurate it is at picking picking the same face over and over again and so forth. But you do sort of think with this, the pandemic and everyone having to wear masks, how sad all the people who have been loving having all this stuff, recognition stuff working, how sad they must be, because all of a sudden all their facial recognition must have stopped working. I wonder if there's any sort of algorithmic analysis that can be done that can match the same person wearing a mask twice. So, if you come in today, JM, with your mask on, and tomorrow with your mask on, can it possibly tell that it's still you? Like if you wear a different mask or different coloured mask, or
so there is a note in the documentation that I went to read, and they say that Amazon Recognition PP detection does not perform facial recognition or facial comparison.
Right. Yeah.
And cannot identify the detected person. So it's just like, do you have your PP on or off? We don't know who you are, and that keep the privacy, I guess. Yeah.
So it's basically taken, like, obviously, facial recognition is done by using maths and points on your face, right?
Yeah.
Your eyes, your nose, your corners of your mouth, those sorts of things. So obviously, it loses most of the data points that it used to make those calculations before. It's only got eyes and basically nothing else. So
I can't really blame recognition for that. Like, on Tuesday we had lovely weather. I had my mask on outside, sunglasses and a hat. Nobody could recognize me.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Other cool stuff. So still staying a bit in the AI/ML space is deep racer community races. So this is basically, we all had fun doing in-person races with deep racer, but that's not really possible anymore. So now you can set it up for your group of friends or company or whatever, meetup, that you all do the same race and have a small competition against each other virtually.
Cool. All virtual.
Yeah. They haven't come up with one for Deep Composer though. Like have a jam, community jam.
Yeah, I'm sure they're just asking you to take the lead on that.
Okay. All right. Okay. No worries. Yep. Well, we'll do. A couple of Amazon Connect ones. Lex bots using British English dialect. Oh, how very awfully proper. Excellent. I'll have to think of some English. Yeah, I'm sure. I wonder if that. Well, I wonder if the British one does Cockney rhyming slang. There you go. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Announcing AWS budget price reduction from 2 cents to 0. So now AWS budget is free, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't understand why you had to pay for that product, but now there is as well AWS budget action, who allow you to put action on your budget if you reach the threshold you set up or the monthly target prediction. And you can block people like by disabling their roles, or you can put an SCP on top of your account to block anything happening, or you can even shut down EC2 and RDS instance if you want to. So a much easier feature now to be able to control the spending in your account if you want to really be tough on budget.
Yeah, cool.
It can be used for sandbox account and stuff like that, but you give $200, $300 to spend for your engineers, and usually they forget. They leave EC2 instance running all week. It's a good way of enforcing that and reset the account. You can maybe even launch AWS Nuke and destroy everything in the account.
Yeah, must be fun. One that I found interesting as well, it's the servers that we still, I'll again put out a reminder to people, if you have an Outpost in your garage and want us to play with it, please let us know. But aside from that, you can now use Resource Access Manager or RAM with Outposts. So this basically means that the stuff you build on your Outpost, you can now share into other accounts.
Yep. Neat.
Which is neat and allows you to do even more with it.
CloudFront Origin Shield. That's kind of neat. So CloudFront obviously is a CDN, so it uses the edge locations of the AWS network to cache your content. So the Origin Shield is like another cache back from the edge locations. That's a shared cache between different regions that sits between the edge locations and your origins, basically. So it's another caching layer, effectively, which is neat.
Yeah.
And we have as well SNS first in, first out. First time SNS can do that. We used to be able to use SQS to do that, but now you can, use SNS to make sure that the messages come in and out in order. A bit more cost though to compare the traditional service. This one is 39 cents per million, where the first one SNS has a free tier, and then 2 cents per gigabyte of the payload. But can be very useful for bank transaction logging, stock ticker, flight trackers, news broadcasting and stuff like that, to be able to receive that through and send that through SNS.
Yep, and with SNS you can now also set the origin number for SMS messages. Oh
yeah, that's pretty cool. That's neat, because when you receive a text to someone, you are very suspicious now. Who sent me that? And now you can register certain numbers belonging to your company, and then the message will be received from the same number. So create some type of confidence and trusted experience for the consumer when they receive an SMS from you.
Presumably you have to prove that number belongs to you before you can use it. I can't just put your mobile number on my outgoing SMS messages.
No, hopefully not. Yeah.
I might try that.
And then SES as well, newer option on that, going to provide a list of unsubscribed headers and organize automatically the subscription management capabilities for your email. So you will have unsubscribed links added automatically, and then at the same time you will monitor that list and then update that list, and you can add your own unsubscribe to that list as well. So making SES much more usable for unsubscribe with following the law in Australia.
Yeah, I know we've had huge amounts of problems with the customers, having, misusing, probably not misusing, not intentionally misusing, but I think the ability to have those unsubscribe links automatically attached, I think will remove some sort of administrative overhead that maybe not every customer is sophisticated enough to be able to put in for themselves. I think it's anything that kind of protects what's left of email's reputation as a viable medium for communicating between humans is a good thing. because it's still an important service. I must admit, 10, 15 years ago, I would have predicted that email would be dead by now, that everyone would have gotten so sick of it, they would have insisted that it stop. But it's still here. And so anything that kind of, I guess, improves the quality of the email that's in your inbox is a worthy thing.
No, that's good.
All right, are we going to swing on to the Nano candidates now, Arjen?
I think so, unless one of you has anything else.
No, I think it's been a long month of not that interesting announcement, to be honest. So I'm really waiting for reInvent now.
There's some good things in there, but yeah, they're kind of they're not flashy. They're kind of they're very workmanlike, the big announcements for this month. I think they're not sizzle. They're all steak.
Anyway, the Nano candidates. Guy, would you like to kick off?
Well, I was just trying to find my list of them that I had, but look, I think we've got WorkDocs got a major upgrade this month, and I think it would be wrong to not call it out that you can now have dark mode on iOS for your WorkDocs app. I think you made the joke, Arjen, that the two customers that are using that will be very glad.
I suspect they are both in the WorkDocs team.
Yes, that's right.
But yeah, considering dark mode was announced June last year, so for iOS itself, and then came out in September, it's taken a bit of time to put another CSS file on there.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was more work to it, but it always seems like, why does that take so long?
Yeah. What was your favourite, Arjen? I think you had a favourite.
So I was thinking I might just make our friend Chris unhappy and go for the Corretto announcement. Minor quarterly updates to an open source package don't really need announcements.
It should just happen. Yeah, you should be able to assume that, shouldn't you? JM, did you have one that you'd kind of...
Yeah, I love your Word doc with iOS, obviously as well. But the other one I found, so small. It's the OpsWorks configuration management to now support the new version of Chef Automate. So you can use 12.17.33 now. In OpsWorks, not really a major feature in enhancement, really, just a tiny update.
And it's OpsWorks.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, so yeah, there was a few of those sorts of announcements, I think, which all kind of rate a special mention. There was an upgrade to Amazon MQ that went from 5.15.13. It went from 5.15.12 to 5.15.13. So that was pretty big. And I think the other one which you called out before, JM, but you made it sound a lot more interesting, was the AWS budget's price reduction, where you can save 2 cents. And that struck me as pretty awesome as well. So reducing the price for budget days from 2 cents to free.
It's per day, so
I know. But still, 2 cents a day is still not very much. 60 cents a month you save. Yeah, it's pretty nano in the scheme of things. Yeah.
But price reduction is always good, so we love it.
You'll have it. 60 cents in your pocket's better than in Jeff's pocket. Yeah.
I almost feel like they just got rid of the costs because managing the money was more expensive than what they got from it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, putting it on the bill, calculating it was chewing up more CPU power than they were earning from it. Yeah.
And with that, we've come to the end of the show. Just a quick reminder, if you have any comments or questions, you can always contact us in the user group Slack team, to which you can subscribe at melb.awsug.org.au/Slack. I know that rolls off the tongue. Don't worry, there's a link in the show notes. Or you can find us on Twitter as @AWSMelb. And of course, I want to do a usual shout out to the user group's wonderful sponsors for all of 2020. Our gold sponsor Enabler, as well as our silver sponsors AC3, CMD Solutions, and Do It International. I also want to thank all of you for listening. And of course, JM and Guy, thank you very much for joining me again.
Always happy to be here, Arjen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arjen, as always, for having us on your show.